The rain was relentless that night, drumming against the greasy diner windows like an impatient customer tapping for attention. Inside, the smell of burnt coffee and fried onions clung to the air, and the hum of a flickering neon sign outside gave the place an eerie pulse. Ethan Cole wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time, pretending not to feel the ache in his shoulders. His shift was supposed to end 2 hours ago, but he needed the extra pay. Every dollar counted. Rent was due, his daughter's medical bills were piling up, and his beat-up car had started making a noise he didn't have the courage to diagnose. He looked at the cracked phone screen beside the register. A photo of his daughter smiled back at him. Lila, 7 years old, gap-toothed, eyes full of sunshine despite everything they'd been through. Almost done, sweetheart, he murmured. Daddy's coming home soon. Ethan, the sharp voice of his manager, Carl, cut through the air. VIPs coming in. Don't mess this up, all right. VIPs. In this diner, Ethan chuckled under his breath, glancing around at the cracked tiles and squeaky booths. But Carl wasn't joking. He was already straightening his tie, adjusting the faded, "Welcome" sign at the door. Just do your job, Cole. And smile. Moments later, 2 sleek black cars pulled up outside, their headlights slicing through the rain. Men in suits stepped out first, scanning the street before one of them opened the rear door. A woman emerged, tall, poised, and out of place in the small-town diner. She wore a gray trench coat that probably cost more than Ethan's yearly rent, and heels that clicked against the tile like a metronome. Her dark hair framed her face perfectly, though her eyes looked distant, like she was somewhere far away. She sat alone in a corner booth. The air seemed to shift when she entered. Conversations quieted. Even the old jukebox seemed to hum softer. Ethan grabbed a notepad and approached, nerves prickling beneath his skin. "Good evening, ma'am. What can I get you tonight?" "Black coffee," she said simply, her voice calm and low. "No sugar," he nodded, scribbling it down. "Rough night?" he asked, trying to sound casual. Her head lifted slightly, eyes narrowing, not in irritation, but surprise. People didn't usually talk to her like that. "You could say that," she said after a pause. Ethan returned with her coffee, setting it down gently. "On the house if it helps." "You shouldn't give things away for free," she replied, stirring her cup though she hadn't added anything. "Your boss won't like that." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes kindness is worth more than $1. That caught her attention. Her lips curved slightly, the faintest ghost of a smile. "Kindness doesn't pay rent, though." "Neither does bitterness," he countered, his tone light. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then, to his surprise, she laughed softly, the sound delicate, like she hadn't done it in a long time. "What's your name?" she asked. "Ethan. Ethan Cole. Nice to meet you, Ethan." She took a slow sip of coffee. "I'm Harper." He nodded, not realizing until later that she hadn't given her last name, Quinn. As in Harper Quinn, CEO of Quinn Enterprises, one of the most powerful women in New York. To him, she was just a stranger who looked lonely, sipping coffee in a place she didn't belong. When she left, hours later, the diner felt emptier. The rain had stopped, but Ethan's thoughts hadn't. Something about her, the sadness in her eyes, the way she'd thanked him for the pie, lingered. He walked home through puddles, his shoes soaked, his jacket useless against the chill. But when he reached the small apartment he and Lila shared, the exhaustion faded. "Daddy." Her squeal filled the air as she ran toward him, arms outstretched. Ethan lifted her easily, spinning her once before setting her down. "There's my favorite girl. You're late," she pouted. "I know, Munchkin." The diner got busy. He ruffled her curls. "Did you eat dinner?" She nodded proudly. "Mac and cheese. And I saved you a cookie." His heart squeezed. "You're too good for me, you know that." Lila grinned. "You're the best daddy ever." He tucked her into bed a few minutes later, humming softly until her eyelids fluttered closed. Her small hand stayed wrapped around his thumb until she drifted off. When he looked around the room, the peeling paint, the secondhand furniture, the leaky ceiling, guilt twisted inside him. He wanted to give her the world, but all he had were late night shifts and promises he wasn't sure he could keep. The next morning, things got worse. A sharp knock rattled the door. Ethan opened it to find a letter taped outside, bold red letters screaming eviction notice. He read it twice, his throat dry. Rent overdue. 2 weeks to vacate. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. God, what do I do now? He couldn't tell Lila. Not yet. She deserved at least 2 more weeks of peace before her world came crashing down. He went to work that night with a heavy heart, moving through his shift like a ghost. His mind kept replaying the same question, how do I save us this time? And then, just as he was about to clock out, the diner bell jingled. He froze. It was her, Harper, in the same gray coat, hair damp from the drizzle, a quiet confidence in her every step. She sat at the same booth. Evening, Ethan. He blinked. You're back. I wanted to thank you, she said, her voice softer tonight. For the pie, and the conversation. He chuckled. You'd be surprised what a good slice of cherry pie can fix. She smiled faintly. Actually, I came for something else. That caught him off guard. Oh, I overheard you last night. You were helping that old man fix his truck outside. You said you used to be a mechanic. Ethan nodded, embarrassed. Yeah, I had a small shop once. But it went under after my wife passed. Couldn't keep up with rent, and, well, here I am. She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. You know a lot about repairs. Have you ever thought about applying your skills somewhere else? He laughed bitterly. Like where? Nobody's hiring a broke single dad who can fix coffee machines and carburetors. But Harper didn't laugh. She reached into her purse and pulled out a sleek card, sliding it across the table. Come to my office tomorrow, she said simply. Just talk to me. Ethan picked up the card, Quinn Enterprises embossed in silver. His eyes widened. Wait, you're Harper Quinn. She gave a small smile. Don't let the name scare you. Sometimes the people we least expect can change everything, if we give them a chance. And with that, she stood, left a generous tip, and walked out into the night. Ethan stared at the card in disbelief. His pulse pounded, his thoughts spinning. That night, when he tucked Lila in, he whispered, something might change soon, sweetheart. Daddy just doesn't know how yet. Lila smiled sleepily. Maybe that lady from the diner is our angel. He chuckled softly, brushing her hair back. Maybe, baby girl, maybe she is. He didn't know it yet, but that meeting would be the spark that changed their destiny forever. The next morning dawned gray and heavy, the kind of day where the world seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood in front of a mirror, fumbling with a tie that refused to cooperate. His reflection stared back. Nervous eyes, a clean but wrinkled shirt, and hope trying its best to hide behind exhaustion. Daddy, you look handsome. He turned, startled. Lila stood by the door, hair in messy curls, holding one of her stuffed bunnies. You think so, kiddo? He asked, crouching down. She nodded eagerly. You look like those people on TV that go to big offices. Are you gonna get a new job? Ethan smiled faintly, smoothing her hair. I hope so, sweetheart. I'm going to meet that nice lady from the diner. Remember her? Lila grinned. The angel lady. He chuckled softly. Yeah, the angel lady. Before leaving, he kissed her forehead. Be good for Mrs. Turner. Okay, I'll be back soon. Promise, promise. And then he was out the door, gripping the small silver business card like it was a lifeline. Dash dash dash. The towering glass building of Quinn Enterprises felt like another planet. Everything gleamed. The marble floors, the mirrored elevators, even the air smelled expensive. Ethan caught his reflection in the glass walls and almost turned back. What am I doing here? But Harper's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes the people we least expect can change everything. The receptionist guided him upstairs. The elevator doors opened to the top floor, sunlight spilling across polished desks, screens glowing, phones ringing in rhythm. And in the middle of it all, standing by the window overlooking the city, was Harper Quinn. Ethan, she said, smiling warmly. You came. I couldn't say no to the person who gave me free pie and a possible miracle, he said with a nervous grin. Her laughter was genuine, softening the professional air around her. I'm glad you came. Come in. They sat across from each other in her sleek glass-walled office. Ethan noticed she had taken off her heels, sitting comfortably with her coffee, not the billionaire CEO the world whispered about, but a woman who looked human, tired, real. Tell me about you, she began. He hesitated. I'm not sure there's much to tell. I fix things, cars, machines, sometimes coffee makers. I used to have a little shop, but after my wife died, things fell apart. I've been trying to hold it together for my daughter. Harper's eyes softened. You're doing more than holding it together, Ethan. You're surviving. He swallowed hard, looking down. Sometimes surviving doesn't feel like enough. They talked for nearly 2 hours. Ethan showed her sketches from an old notebook, ideas he'd scribbled years ago for low-cost repair tools and eco-friendly parts that could help struggling mechanics in small communities. Harper listened carefully, taking notes, asking questions. By the end, she closed the notebook gently and said, I want to help you build this. He blinked. Help me build it. I'll fund your project, she said simply. You'll run it. A small division under Quinn Enterprises. We'll make affordable, sustainable repair kits. You'll hire people like you, hardworking, skilled, and overlooked. Ethan sat there, stunned. You don't even know me. Why would you trust me with something like this? She smiled faintly. Because I've met thousands of people who wanted to own more. You're the first I've met who just wants to give more. For the first time in years, Ethan felt the spark of something long lost, hope. Weeks turned into months. The project, Revive Works, as they named it, took shape. Ethan worked side by side with engineers, designers, and mechanics, his hands finally creating again. Harper visited often, always bringing coffee and quiet encouragement. And somewhere between late-night meetings and shared laughter, something began to grow. Something fragile but real. But the world wasn't blind. Rumors started. She's in love with the mechanic. He's using her. She's lost control. Harper pretended not to care, but Ethan saw the tension in her jaw, the silence in her eyes. One night, after another long workday, he found her alone in the office, staring out at the city lights. You okay? He asked gently. She sighed. They think I'm making a mistake. Because of me, he said quietly. Her gaze met his. Because I don't fit their idea of a perfect CEO. I help people who can't help me in return. That's bad business. He hesitated before saying, maybe, you shouldn't be seen with me so much. People talk. She took a step closer, her voice trembling. Ethan, you're the first person who's seen me, not Quinn Enterprises. I won't lose that because of gossip. The room felt heavy, electric. He wanted to say something, to bridge the space between them, but his phone buzzed. When he saw the message, his blood ran cold. Greater than Mrs. Turner. Ethan, it's Lila. She collapsed. Ambulance is on the way. The phone slipped from his hand. Oh God. Harper was already grabbing her coat. I'm driving. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Machines beeped. Nurses hurried. Ethan sat by the bed, gripping Lila's tiny hand, his tears falling freely. Her heart, he whispered. They said it's her condition. I should have noticed. I should have. Stop, Harper said softly, sitting beside him. You've done everything, Ethan. You're a good father. Hours blurred together. Harper refused to leave his side. She paid for the best specialists, the best care, without asking for anything in return. When Lila finally opened her eyes, pale but smiling, she whispered faintly, Daddy, it's okay. We can leave, I know you're tired. Ethan broke down, pressing her hand to his heart. No, baby, we're not leaving. We fight, remember. You promised. Her tiny fingers curled around his. You're the best daddy ever. Harper turned away, tears streaming silently. That little girl, so fragile, so brave, reminded her of everything money could never buy. After long weeks, Lila recovered slowly. The doctors said she'd need ongoing treatment, but she'd be okay. When Ethan went to thank Harper, she only smiled. Don't thank me. Just promise you'll keep building Revive Works. The world needs people like you. He nodded, emotion thick in his throat. And I need people like you, Harper. Her eyes softened, but before she could reply, Lila's small voice called from the hallway. Daddy, Miss Harper, look. Butterflies. They turned to see her outside in the garden, chasing bright yellow wings under the sun. The laughter that left her lips was pure music, the sound of second chances. Harper stood beside Ethan, the sunlight catching in her hair. "You changed everything for me, you know," she said quietly. "You reminded me that even the richest people can be poor in heart." He smiled, watching Lila spin in the grass. "And you reminded me that even the poorest man can feel rich when someone believes in him." Their hands brushed, tentative, warm. Neither pulled away. "Maybe," Harper whispered, "it's not just business anymore." Ethan looked at her, eyes full of something deeper than gratitude. "No," he said softly. "It's something more." Lila's laughter filled the air again, and in that moment, under the golden afternoon light, the world didn't seem so cruel anymore. Because sometimes, fate doesn't shout, it whispers. And all it takes is one meeting, one act of kindness, one second of courage, to change everything.